You didn't want to forget your homework in this class, because if you didn't turn it in, you wouldn't get a bad grade or points taken off. She would drag your desk to the front of the room, and you had to face the class instead of the board.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Now that is awkward, because the entire time someone would be sitting there, they would assume everybody they're looking at and that is looking at them is judging them horribly, even if it's not the case. Awkward eye contact, kids just pointing and laughing, whispering. Are they talking about me? I don't know what's going on. Well, the students hated this. If they forgot to do their homework, they would frantically try to fill it in before class started because they didn't want to be in the hot seat, but it worked. That class had the highest homework completion rate in the entire school. So, you tell me, that teacher is a genius, right? This elementary kid came to school one day with the loosest front teeth.
Hi.
And he had a huge crush on this one girl. So one day at recess, he runs over to her, smiling.
Look how loose my teeth are.
The girl looked at him and said, "Ew, that's gross." The kid was hurt by this, so he stood there for a second, and then he punched himself in the mouth. Both of his front baby teeth fell out, and he held them up to her in his bloody hand.
Is this better?
She screamed and ran away. The recess monitor sent him to the nurse immediately because they had no idea what had happened. The next day, that kid came back to school carrying these 2 tiny teeth in a bag. 2 tiny teeth in a bag? He realized these teeth fit perfectly into a drinking straw. So in the first class of the day, whenever the teacher turned around, he would take these teeth and shoot them at his classmates through a straw, like they were spitballs. Ow! He would then crawl on the floor to pick up the teeth he just spit, and he would do it again, all class period. His teacher kept getting angrier and angrier. She didn't really know what he was doing or that it was his teeth he was spitting, but the angrier she got at him, the crazier he got. And he had to be sent home from school that day, and he was suspended. Talk about another weird kid. This kid learned how to cut hair over the summer, and right before school started, he decided he needed to practice. So he texted a bunch of kids. "Free haircuts at my house tonight," and people showed up. The first kid,
Hey, can I get a fade?
he gave him a fade. It was horrible.
Just buzz it off.
The second haircut wasn't much better either. The third, not good. And then the fourth kid sat down. "All right, man, I'm ready."
All right, here we go.
And somehow, the dude absolutely nailed it. Perfect, clean lineup. Kid looks in the mirror and goes, "Wait, bro, this is actually sick." He then took a picture and sent it to everybody. And that changed everything. Everybody who saw the first 3 haircuts and were making fun of him were now asking for haircuts themselves. By 10 p.m., there's a line of kids out front, everyone sitting, waiting their frickin' turn. And when it got dark out, his dad brought out his huge lights.
There you go, buddy. Now you can see.
He kept cutting and he didn't finish until after midnight. The next morning at school, there's just tons of kids there with perfect fades and amazing haircuts. "Wow, Johnny, who cut your hair?"
Steven.
"That's right." You gotta respect the haircut. This kid figured out how to turn junk at yard sales valuable. He would go to thrift stores and buy these old-looking things, like an ugly brass lamp, or a wooden box, a small statue. He got the stuff for like $3 or $4 each. Then he would go home and make these professional-looking cards, history cards, and kind of stain the paper to make it look old, and then like laminate it. It was these elaborate stories that he would make up, like, "This lamp belongs to a New York City hotel. During the 1940s, the president stayed here." And that's obviously not true, but a guy walked up.
Hey, this is a piece of history. I'll give you $30 for it.
Bingo, deal. Another one. "This box was found during the clean out of a 100-year-old farmhouse."
Hey, this one. I like it. I want it. $40.
None of this stuff was true. He was scamming the neighborhood every single time. His parents finally asked him,
Hey, how do you know all this stuff?
and he just said, "I don't. I made it up." And they're like, "Bruh." And they made him stop that for good. But he made hundreds of dollars, and for that I say, gotta respect the hustle. This kid knew his little brother was gonna take the exact same class he was in the next year, and that teacher had a reputation of reusing the same assignments year after year. Well, the older brother kept every single graded worksheet he ever got back, and on the last day of school, he put it all in a manila folder and hid it behind this very old bookcase in the room. Before summer break ended, he told his little brother, "Hey, on the first day, don't tell anybody, but look behind the bookcase in Mrs. Johnson's class." His little bro was like, "Okay, what?" But after class that one day, he reached behind the bookcase and found it. What? for Billy. It was like finding treasure, and it was all in order of first assignment to last assignment. Sure enough, when the first assignment was passed out by the teacher, he looked at the folder. It was the same, and that's when he knew, oh, he hooked me up. He had every single homework worksheet and answer for the entire class. Nobody knew how he was getting such amazing grades on all the homework, but kept failing the tests. Well, doesn't matter because he still passed, and he was forever grateful for his brother. There was a kid who was out to dinner with his family, and this woman at the table next to him was coughing hard. The lady's date stood up. Everyone's kind of like, yo, is she okay? She kept waving around like, I'm fine, I'm fine. Finally, she coughed something up and spit it on the floor and went right back to eating with her date. Anyways, so I grew up in New Hampshire. And that kid was so weirded out. He's like, what was that? Also, gross. Also, what did she spit out? And he got a closer look. What the heck? Sitting there, covered in her mucus and food on the floor, was one of those tiny plastic babies. What? And like I said, she was just casually eating again, like nothing had happened. And for the rest of dinner, the kid barely touched his food because could not figure out how that tiny baby got in there in the first place. That's weird. This kid treated getting to lunch like it was the Olympics. The second the lunch bell rang, he was gone. He'd speed walk through the halls, weave around teachers, and sprint down the stairs because he wanted to be the first kid in line. His friends could never keep up. One afternoon, he came flying down the main staircase, taking 3 steps at a time like a pro. Well, he was moving too fast that at the last few steps, he fell, and he fell bad. The cafeteria doors were right there. Everyone was coming behind him, and they all saw it, pointing at him, laughing. Loser! His own friends walked past him, and one of his friends looked down at him and said, bro, if you get up and hurry, you can still be first in line. Well, that awoken something in him, because he got up, and he limped his way to the cafeteria, and somehow he was second in line. Yes! But after school that day, his knee was so swollen, his mom had to take him to the doctor. He was so proud of what he accomplished. But the next day, he took a little bit more time getting to lunch. This kid's dad came up with the weirdest punishment of all time. This kid got a bad grade on his report card. His dad wasn't too happy. You know, kid, I'm not too happy. So he wanted to ground him, but he wanted to do something different. So he came up with this thing called Carry Gary. You see, Gary was a garden gnome that sat on the front porch, and his new punishment for whenever his kid got in trouble was that if you're in this house, you have to be carrying Gary. So every time this kid would come home from school, he would have to pick up the garden gnome and carry him around for the rest of the night until bed. He wasn't allowed to set Gary down beside him. He had to constantly be carrying Gary, even during dinner, watching TV, going to the bathroom. Now, if his parents ever caught him setting Gary down, the punishment time would reset. Oh, you put him down. Another week starts now. Nah, man. One afternoon, his friend came over and he saw this.
Whoa, what's going on?
His friend was in the kitchen making a grilled cheese, holding Gary.
Oh, making a grilled cheese.
What's with the garden gnome?
First of all, his name's Gary.
Second of all, don't ask. The longest time the punishment lasted was 3 weeks. And it's funny because it's not really a punishment. He's still allowed to do stuff at the house. You just have to carry that dang gnome. That's hilarious. This kid went to his friend's house and noticed that every single cabinet in the kitchen had locks on it. The weird part though, his friend was in 8th grade. Why would there be locks on the cabinet? He thought,
His parents must be controlling.
Well, one day he finally asked, yo, what's with all the locks in the cabinets? His friend just said, my dad. Apparently, this kid's dad would sleepwalk every night. He would wander into the kitchen completely asleep, open every single cabinet, and eat whatever he could find. Chips or cookies, even leftover pizza, he would just smash it. He was once caught grabbing peanut butter straight from the jar and feeding it to a picture of the family dog on the wall. One night he made himself scrambled eggs. And every time he would do this, the kitchen looked like an absolute tornado blew through there the next morning. Cabinet doors open and food and drink everywhere. After months of cleaning up this horrible mess, his wife, this friend's mom, finally locked every single cabinet. So now, instead of sleepwalking every night and eating random food, he would just be making tons of noise trying to break in to to the locked cabinets.
Way to go, Dad.
This kid bet his friend, I bet you I can go an entire Saturday without using my hands. The entire Saturday. His friend was like, okay, but I picked the Saturday, and it's gonna be this Saturday, which is the same day as my birthday party. So the rule was, if he touched anything with his hands, he would lose the bet. His friend thought he maybe would last an hour, but no, this kid took it seriously. Opened doors with his feet, turned light switches on with his nose. He ate breakfast off a plate like a dog. Then that afternoon was his friend's birthday party. He gets there, and everyone's eating pizza. His friend goes, good luck, dude. You're definitely losing this bet. Kid looks around. Now, like I said, everyone's eating pizza. He's hungry. How is he gonna do this? So what he does is he goes to the old people table.
Hey guys, I'm not feeling too well today. Can one of you go get me a plate of 3 slices of pizza? Sure, kid, I'll go get you some pizza.
The old guy goes to get him some pizza, comes back. The kid says,
Oh, I'm not feeling too well, like I said. Could you please feed me the pizza? Sure, I'll feed you the pizza.
the old guy starts feeding this kid the pizza. His friend is sitting all the way over at a different table and he's like, no frickin' way, dude. That's crazy. Well, the kid wins the bet. Everyone's asking, so how much did you guys make the bet for? And he says, oh, $5. $5. And that's how hard he went on that bet. What a legend. You gotta respect it.